Hello there, Qckslvrslash, and today we have a video courtesy of 1289 driving the Tier 8 German destroyer, the Z-23. Now, I personally don't have this ship yet, so I can't say a lot about it, but I have really been enjoying the German destroyer line, and they're kind of unique playstyle. I'm into the Ernst Guide. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce the name, but the Tier 6, and I've been having a blast. The T-22 is by far one of my favorite destroyers at Tier 5 at least, and has earned itself a permanent home in my harbor. And watching this game, I think I'm going to enjoy the Tier 8 as well. You can see she's got pretty standard layout, more or less. A twin gun up front, and then 3 single-barreled guns in the rear, with the pair of quad-barreled torpedo tubes and a smattering of AA about her hull. And just looking at this ship, she is beautiful. And I kind of like the mixture of the twin turret with a bunch of single ones in the back. And just overall, I really loved the way these German destroyers look. They are a little bit larger though, and that comes with the penalty. Their detectability definitely leaves something to be desired. You can see this is 6.9, and I'm guessing that's with a pretty skilled commander, though I can't say entirely. So as you can see, 1289's teamed up with This Is Just a Game and 333, and they came in as a group of Tier 8s with the Scharnhorst in tow, and they wound up in the worst matchup, a Tier 10 game. So you know, when you wind up in a situation like this where you're a small vessel, you don't necessarily have to do a ton. You know, not a lot's going to be expected out of some Tier 8s in a Tier 10 game, but it puts you in a position where some really strong play, you know, puts your team over that tipping point and can really help you get the win. Especially if some of those ships you knock out are Tier 10s, because, well, quite frankly, you're punching way above your weight at that point. And this match has started out a little odd. I'm surprised they captured the B cap, because normally at least one enemy destroyer comes in to contest it. But I'm guessing based on the fact that the enemy team's only got 2 DDs, they're probably sticking together. And looking at 1289's team, they've pretty much all stuck together themselves. They've grouped themselves up just behind B and are really in a good place to kind of fight. And it looks like they're planning to drive down to C. One enemy cruiser's been spotted up at A, but for the most part it appears that the enemy team is going down towards Charlie, pretty much to try to take it, and that means there's going to be a bit of a fight down there. So you can see 1289 is trying to put themselves in a flanking position. And this is a really solid move out of a destroyer when you see this happening. If your team is kind of forming into a brick wall that the enemy team's not going to be able to push past, they're going to be grouped up in an area that, if they don't find a way to keep some momentum, they're going to be prime targets for cross torpedoes. And because their bows will be pointing in to the majority of 1289's fleet, they're also going to be presenting the largest target for torpedoes to hit. And just look to the right there. Otago, Iowa, Yamato, Des Moines, North Carolina, another Iowa, Montana, and they are all pretty much perfectly flat on to 1289 here. Now you do have to be careful, you know, very aware of the detection radius and your range, because if he gets detected, the jig's up. This only works if no one knows he's here. And you can see his first target is going to be Deathbringer, the Tier 10. And there's the torpedoes. And personally, I don't like the move of the smoke there. If that Montana is paying a lot of attention, he's going to see the smoke go, there's a destroyer there, I've got to turn. So we'll see if this pays off, but I can understand the urge to, you know, sit and start working these guys over. The guns on this ship are pretty good. You've got 5 barrels like pretty much every tier 8 destroyer, and if you can light some fires, you're gonna do some damage. And my word, look at that Montana. I'm just gonna stare at him. Every single one of those torpedoes is looking good. Oh my god. That certainly worked. And so the smoke didn't hurt him, but it could have. Because if I had been in that ship and suddenly seen smoke appear, I would have been all over my rudder and engine speed, trying to just displace myself as far as possible from the path I had originally been driving. But what do I know, because it worked out. 1289's now up to 58,000 damage, and that Montana is, I'd say, taken out of the fight. He's now forced to pay attention to 1289. He can't just kind of idly, oh my god, that... Well, there goes half his hit points. As I was saying, that Montana can't just kind of slowly work his way towards the rest of his fleet. Because anytime he tries to close in that direction, he's risking eating in another entire barrage of torpedoes. And you can kind of see what I was saying about the enemy team just getting completely stopped up. That Yamato just ate a torpedo. They look like they might get the Iowa. Hard to say if that was a PED or some damage, but they're stuck. They can't advance because of how much of 1289's team is here. And when you're in a destroyer, this is just a smorgasbord. They're all sitting side on. They're all pretty much stationary. You don't even need to aim. You just go that direction and just throw as many torpedoes as possible. But you can see he is choosing to pick specific targets, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The Yamato is a big, very dangerous ship, and they're backing up, and reliably you can think that Yamato is going to continue to back up because they don't want to be, the pointy end of the spear. When you have two groups kind of smashing into one another, the nail that sticks out is the one that gets the hammer. And as a battleship, especially a top tier one where a lot is kind of expected of you damage wise, if you're sitting right out in the front, eating a lot of just, that harassment fire, the fires, the AP damage that just builds up over time, it's not going to go well. And a bit of bad luck there. Only one hits the Yamato and they run out before they can hit the Montana. But he did trigger a flooding, and while it hasn't stuck, he's definitely used his damage control because that fire went out as well. So that puts the Yamato in a tough spot, especially if his team really starts pounding into him with HE. And it looks like he got another fire there, and that one is going to go the distance. And you can see the Yamato's not too impressed, having tried to turn, and he wants out. And it looks like he's going to potentially eat a whole bunch more torps as he tried to turn there. Yep, there's one or two. Will they get him? It doesn't look like he's dead, but he is definitely hurting. You can see his repair party is running, but he is losing health at a much greater rate. So far things are, I'd say, a bit of a mixed bag. Personally, 1289's been doing really well, but his team is down 4 ships to 2 and only has 1 cap, which is putting them behind. They all committed to going into sea, and because the whole enemy team went there too, there's just no good way to try to take it from them. And those 2 ships from the enemy team that just kind of went to the north have captured A, and they're now in a flanking position. So just kind of a really crummy situation to have put yourself in as a team. They've got to find a way to fight out of this. And really the only way that's happening is with, them deciding as a group, we're doing this. 1289 doesn't have a ton of health, so he can't afford to risk too much, but that doesn't mean he can't help his team. See, he's got the Hydra up there to try to help detect any torpedoes. He put a set out at that enemy Yamato, which, well, I am unable to look at for some reason, but we'll find out if they hit sooner or later here. And he's kind of just trying to help save his team. He's going to have smoke soon. I can only assume that he's going to throw that in. And there's 3 torpedoes into the Yamato. How is that guy still alive? There we go. He's not. Good, so there's one big ship off, and look how much damage 1289 has. And the other thing is, finally it's dropped. The enemy team just lost 3 of their battleships in a period of 5 or 10 seconds, and they're about to lose another. So things look dire, but that threat's over. The Iowa's done, and they're finally should be able to capture Charlie. And at this point, you can guarantee the enemy team isn't feeling too good. They were probably pretty confident about 30 seconds ago. You know, all the battleships, they've got the caps, but because of the cumulative health loss and just the harassing torpedoes that 1289 and that other destroyer out on the east flank put in, they were going to die sooner or later, and you just have to hold on and wait for that damage to accumulate and start knocking ships out of the battle. And K-Press bot looks to be doing exactly what bad battleship drivers do, and that's drive in a straight line. You can see he is focused on something. He's focused on 1289's buddy in the Scharnhorst, you know, tier 7 battleship. Ah, there's some easy prey. Charging straight at him. And this is just a game. Definitely isn't in a great spot. He's got 3 ships shooting him. But the Scharnhorst is fast. And he's got a talented division mate who, well, made a pretty easy job out of this North Carolina. Sinks 4 torpedoes into him, taking out 2/3 of his hit points. And, well, now at least he's in that killable range, especially for something like the Scharn that has some torpedoes. So let's see if they can, you know, collectively work down, and a fire is definitely going to help that. You can see and hear this is just a game's guns firing, but he looks to be actually shooting back. So that's a little confusing to me. Looking at where he fired, his turrets were aimed at that destroyer or cruiser rather than this North Carolina. But he was clearly paying attention because there's the Scharnhorst torpedoes in the water, and I mean, this North Carolina just wasn't thinking this entire time through. He drove in a straight line for a long time, and he charged a battleship with torpedoes. So there he goes. And I just don't get those decisions that people make. You know, the North Carolina, if he just played it a little more cautiously, took his time, he could have gotten that Scharnhorst. And, you know, it was no secret that there's destroyers over here. So he should have known that was coming, but he just drove in a straight line, blindly firing. And when you behave like that and play like that, you're going to get killed and just wiped from the map. And, I mean, 1289 is definitely not complaining. He's up to almost 200,000 damage. He's only got the 2 kills, 100 gun shell hits exactly, and he's up to 12 torpedoes. And, you know, things are looking good. They've got 2 caps, the points lead. The enemies only have 1 destroyer and a cruiser. They've got a couple battleships and a couple big ships still. Like the Cab and the Des Moines, definitely deadly, but they've got a gearing, and a Frederick de Grobe, it can handle itself. It's got that hydroacoustic search. So, you know, they should still be in this. But the interesting thing to me here is the gearing left the cap there. Now, there is the threat, the Des Moines, with the radar, but he drove himself behind an island, so even if he popped it, he wouldn't have had shots at the gearing. So if I was in that gearing's position, I would have used the time that Des Moines was behind the island to get to the north side of this cap. Put yourself in a position where that Des Moines has to keep driving around this island, exposing himself to your Scharnhorst and 1289 in the Z-23 to be able to get you. Instead, he kind of drove out and did a big loop this way and is kind of getting pinched. He's doing what I think is the right thing. You know, he's trying to defend the cap, but because the route he took, he's gonna get forced out or spotted. It's one or the other. Now, hopefully 1289 can get some helping torpedoes here in the water, and he does have a shot through the channel and he puts them in. So, you know, if those work out, it's going to be great, but there's the Des Moines radar. And that's kind of what I was worried about on the Gearing's part. He put himself in a bad position, and then he goes, okay, I'll just smoke. I'm a destroyer, I can sit and smoke. Well, the Des Moines is a radar cruiser. There's a reason it's a good ship. It's got great guns with a high rate of fire, and that long duration American radar that, as you can see, the Gearing was pretty much full health, and he's gonna be dead in not too long. One more hit and he's done, and it looks like he's burning down. So, you know, it doesn't take too much to read into that kind of situation, and, you know, the Gearing luckily got a torpedo out there, but the Des Moines not surviving this. I just think that Gearing could have played the situation better and kept himself alive and still gotten the exact same amount of damage he managed to get in there. And there's the match. And all told, a pretty beastly game by 1289. 203,000 damage, 131 shell hits, 12 torpedoes, only 2 kills, which is a little odd. Almost 9,700 experience, and the win. And ultimately, to me, that's the thing that matters. I really would prefer a win over an amazing game, but to have an amazing game and the win is just, you know, the icing on the cake. And watching this, I can't help but want to get into the Z-23. You know, I had the Akazuki game a couple days ago, another tier 8 destroyer, and now we've got this. And I really need to get off my butt and start grinding these lines out. I've been trying to work on getting through some of the 9s that I've just had sitting around forever, and maybe it's time I jump down a few tiers, play my tier 6 and 7 destroyers that I've got, and get into these guys. Anyways, thank you very much, 1289. I really appreciate the replay. For anyone else who would like to submit one, Qckslvrslash@gmail.com, and I try to get to all of them. And if you guys enjoy this, consider giving it a thumbs up or subscribing to the channel. And as always, I'm Qckslvrslash, and I'll have another one for you guys later.